It was a hot evening in Dakar, music spilling from a small bar where Nia sat at the back, half listening to her boyfriend Amadou's voice. She had gone to surprise him, but what she heard froze her in place. Amadou was laughing with his friends, bragging about sleeping with McKenna like it was a game. Nia's heart pounded, but she didn't move. She pulled out her phone, hit record, and caught every word. Later that night, she started digging. She matched the dates he mentioned with his text history, saving screenshots, pulling timestamps from photos, even scrolling through old receipts. The pieces lined up like a puzzle she didn't want to see. There was a pattern. Nia didn't cry when she finished. She planned. A week later, she showed up at a crowded rooftop party, where Amadou was holding court. She walked up, phone in hand, and played a 10-second clip loud enough for everyone to hear. His voice, smug and clear, spilled into the air. People turned. Whispers grew. Someone started recording on their own phone. Within hours, the video hit social media. Comments poured in, calling out his arrogance, his betrayal. Memes followed. Nia didn't need to explain anything, the clip said it all. By the next day, Amadou had gone silent, while Nia's follower count shot up. The power had shifted. She wasn't just the girl he cheated on. She was the girl who caught him, exposed him, and walked away without looking back. The trotro was hot and noisy, packed with strangers and the smell of street food drifting in from the open windows. ESI sat by the window, tired from work, when she suddenly heard a loud laugh behind her. It was Ya, her boyfriend, talking to a friend on the phone. His words hit her like a slap. He was bragging, in a drunken slur, about sleeping with someone else. The laughter around him made it worse. ESI froze, heart racing, but her hand moved quickly. She opened her phone, pressed record, and captured every word. She didn't even turn to look at him. She just stared out the window, pretending not to hear, her face calm while her chest burned inside. That night, she confronted Ya, hoping there was some explanation. He smiled and shook his head, saying she must have misunderstood. He called it, just drunk talk, told her she was, too sensitive. It was gaslighting, and it made her doubt herself for a moment, until she played the recording. Still, he insisted it meant nothing. She went to her best friend for support, but even she hesitated, saying maybe Ya was joking. ESI felt alone, but she wasn't done. A few days later, an anonymous account leaked screenshots of Ya's direct messages with other women. They were bold, shameless, and dated back months. ESI's stomach turned as she read them. This wasn't one mistake. It was a pattern. The leak spread fast. People started sharing the screenshots on Twitter and Instagram. Comments flooded in, tagging Ya, calling him out. Some defended him, some dragged him, and some shared their own stories of betrayal. Ya tried to push back, saying the messages were fake, but too many women came forward with similar receipts. ESI didn't speak publicly at first. She just watched. The storm grew, swallowing his reputation piece by piece. Friends unfollowed him. His boss heard about it. Someone even remixed ESI's trotro recording into a viral TikTok sound. Finally, ESI posted one tweet. The audio from that night with the caption, "Believe women the first time." It exploded. People shared it thousands of times. Memes popped up. Radio stations discussed it. Some people still tried to defend Ya, but the tide had turned. ESI didn't feel like a hero. It was messy. She had lost trust, a friend, and a relationship she once believed in. But she had her truth out in the open, where no one could twist it anymore. And even in the middle of the chaos, she felt lighter, like she had taken something back. The city kept talking, but ESI was already walking forward, her phone silent in her hand. Safia was cleaning the living room on a quiet Sunday afternoon, the smell of mint tea drifting from the kitchen. Her husband, Rashid, had left his phone on the couch. It buzzed with a new voice note. She didn't mean to pry, but the preview flashed a name she knew too well, one of his friends who always made her uneasy. Curiosity got the better of her. She pressed play. Rashid's voice filled the room, low and smug, telling his friend about a night he spent with another woman. He laughed like it was a joke only they could share. Safia's hand shook as she stopped the message. The room felt suddenly smaller, the tea smell heavier. From Rashid's side, it had been nothing but bravado. He had been showing off, trying to sound like the big man in front of his friends. But that wasn't the whole truth. His lie was not entirely a lie. There had been a night, and there had been a woman. The voice note made it sound like a casual victory, but the reality was complicated. Safia didn't know that yet. She only had his words, and they burned. She spent the next 2 days quietly watching him, replaying the note over and over, checking messages when he left his phone unattended. She found old chats, vague hints, and photos that told her enough. The ego-driven story he told his friend wasn't fiction. He had crossed the line, just dressed it in swagger. The confrontation came one evening when they were both home, the TV humming in the background. Safia asked him calmly about the note. Rashid smirked, called it stupid talk, but when she laid out the evidence, his face shifted. He admitted enough to confirm her worst thoughts, yet still tried to control the narrative, painting himself as a man who had made one harmless mistake. Safia saw through it. Now she faced a choice. She had the voice note, the chats, and even a short video from a friend who had seen him with the woman. She could post it online and let the world see him for who he was. Part of her craved the satisfaction. She imagined the flood of comments, the shame in his eyes when people whispered his name. But another part of her felt tired of the noise, tired of giving him space in her mind. Late that night, she sat alone in the kitchen, the phone in her hand, the voice note playing one last time. She thought of her family, her own peace, and the fact that public exposure would make this story about everyone else's entertainment, not her healing. She deleted the note from her phone but kept the truth in her heart. In the morning, she told Rashid she was done. No shouting, no scene, just a quiet end that left him stunned. He had expected a fight, maybe a scandal, but not her silence. Safia walked away without looking back, carrying a power he would never fully understand. The wedding reception was loud and full of laughter, the dance floor packed, and the smell of roasted meat floating through the air. Thandi stood near the buffet table, sipping her drink, when she caught Saifo's voice behind her. He was talking to 2 friends, his tone low but cocky. She almost ignored it, but then she heard her own name mixed with another woman's. Saifo was bragging about a night they spent together, saying things that made her skin crawl. His words weren't just about cheating, they were about taking something that wasn't his to take. The music pounded in her ears, but every word cut through. She kept her face still, but inside, her stomach turned. That night, she couldn't sleep. She replayed his voice in her mind, the way his friends laughed, and she knew she needed proof. The next day, she started digging. She went through old photos on social media, checking locations and timestamps. Saifo had posted pictures without thinking. A hotel tagged on the same night he told that story, a selfie at a bar hours before. Thandi reached out to people who had been there, asking careful questions. Some hesitated, others avoided her, but slowly she pieced the night together. 2 weeks later, she invited Saifo to meet her at a rooftop cafe. The city spread out below them, the sea glinting in the distance. He thought it was a casual catch-up, maybe even a chance to charm her again. But when he arrived, she was ready. Her phone sat on the table, already recording. She asked him directly about that night. At first, he laughed it off, calling it just a story. Then she showed him the geotags, the photos, the witness accounts. His smile cracked. She pressed harder, her voice steady, until he admitted enough for the truth to be clear. Without warning, she stood up, walked to the railing, and addressed the small crowd enjoying the rooftop view. She played a short clip of his brag from the wedding night, her voice cutting in with the facts she had gathered. Faces turned toward him, whispers spreading. Someone started filming. Saipho tried to speak, but the moment had already shifted. People were looking at him differently now, not as the confident man from the wedding, but as someone caught. Within hours, the video was online. Comments poured in, not just about cheating, but about consent, respect, and the harm done when these things are treated like jokes. Women shared their own stories. Hashtags spread. Saipho went silent on social media. The conversation wasn't clean or easy, but it was loud, and it reached far beyond Durban. Thandi didn't watch every post or every comment. She had started something bigger than revenge. It was about truth, about forcing people to see what's often ignored. And when she walked away from that rooftop, she didn't look back. The city lights were bright ahead of her, and for the first time in weeks, she felt like she could breathe. The night air was warm as the taxi bumped along the road from Kampala to Entebbe. Marembe sat quietly in the back seat, watching the blur of streetlights, when Jabari, her boyfriend, answered a call. He didn't notice her listening. His voice was low but careless, telling someone about a night in a hotel with another woman. He laughed softly, calling it our little secret. The driver kept his eyes on the road, but Marembe's heart pounded. She stared out the window so Jabari wouldn't see her face, her mind already replaying every word. When they reached home, she didn't confront him. Instead, she began to collect proof. She remembered the taxi company name and called them the next day, pretending she needed receipts for work. She found the trip he had taken without her, late at night. The date matched the night he claimed to be working late. She then checked a friend's Instagram and found a blurred photo from the same hotel lobby that night. The woman's dress in the corner of the frame. Slowly, the puzzle began to form. But as she dug deeper, she found something worse. Jabari's hotel visits weren't just with one woman. The receipts showed multiple bookings over months. Some dates overlapped with times he was supposed to be away visiting family. The deeper she went, the more lies unraveled. The confession she overheard was just a piece of a much larger web. She decided the truth couldn't wait. One night, close to midnight, she sent messages to both Jabari and one of the women, telling them to meet her in front of the lakeside cafe. When they arrived, both looked confused. The moonlight made their faces pale. Without raising her voice, Marembe laid out the evidence, the taxi logs, the hotel receipts, the photos. She spoke with calm precision, giving them no room to deny it. The woman shifted uncomfortably, but Jabari tried to talk over her, his words stumbling. Then Marembe did something they didn't expect. She told them she wasn't here to scream, to fight, or to beg. She was here to make it clear that she knew everything, and that from this moment, they would no longer have any power over her. She wished the woman luck, turned to Jabari, and told him he had lost something he could never replace. The next day, she blocked them both and deleted the evidence from her phone. She didn't post it online. She didn't want the world's noise or pity. She wanted peace. Friends later heard whispers about the midnight meeting, and the story still moved quietly through Entebbe like a cautionary tale. Marembe didn't care. She had faced them, spoken her truth, and walked away with her head high. As she stood on the pier that morning watching the lake shimmer under the rising sun, she felt lighter than she had in months. Justice, for her, wasn't about revenge. It was about finally closing the door and locking it behind her. It was late in the evening when Imani's phone buzzed with a notification for a new voicemail. She didn't think much of it until she pressed play. Otieno's voice came through, half drunk and careless, bragging to someone about a night he had with another woman. He laughed in that easy way she knew too well, like nothing he said could come back to him. But what caught her wasn't just the story, it was the way he hinted it had happened before, more than once. As the message ended, Imani just sat there, phone in her hand, feeling the quiet weight of truth settling over her. She didn't rush to confront him. Instead, she started writing everything down. Dates he had been busy, strange late-night calls, times he disappeared for hours without explanation. The more she wrote, the clearer the pattern became. It wasn't just one betrayal. It was many. But Imani didn't want to throw it online in anger. She knew that would only bring noise, not peace. So she did something different. She joined an anonymous online forum for women, sharing her story without names. She was surprised when dozens of replies came in, women who had lived the same thing, who had felt the same pain. Someone suggested she start a small anonymous page to share these experiences. She did, posting stories she received with permission. Within a month, the account began to spread. People shared it not for gossip, but for the honesty. One night, someone posted her original voicemail, edited to remove names, and it went viral. The clip was short, just Otieno's voice and the hurt behind it. People commented not just about him, but about how common it was, about respect, about trust. The conversation grew bigger than her story. Women from all over started sending in their own recordings, screenshots, and journal entries. The page became a place for support and truth-telling, not revenge. Otieno found out, of course. He sent her a message, first angry, then apologetic, then blaming her. She didn't reply. She didn't need to. The power had shifted. His voice was out there, but her name wasn't. She was no longer the girl he had betrayed, she was the one who had turned pain into something useful. Months later, Imani closed the account. It had grown into something the community could carry without her. She didn't want to live in that story forever. She had new boundaries now. She no longer explained her choices to people who doubted her. She trusted herself more. One Sunday morning, she sat at a cafe by the street, sipping tea while the city moved around her. Her phone was silent, and for the first time in a long while, she wasn't checking for messages or proof. She didn't need them. She had let go of the need to make everyone see what she already knew. Healing, she realized, was the loudest answer she could give, and it was hers alone. The heat in the Lagos cafe was nothing compared to the fire building in Adana's chest. She sat at the corner table, pretending to scroll her phone, when she overheard Bola, her boyfriend, holding court with his friends. He was loud, laughing, telling an exaggerated story about conquests, including her. The way he spoke made her more annoyed than hurt. It wasn't just betrayal, it was performance, a cheap show for an audience. She decided right then she wouldn't cry. She'd make a bigger show than his. Over the next week, Adana set her traps. She posted vague, baiting captions on Instagram that she knew Bola couldn't resist commenting on. She asked mutual friends loaded questions in group chats, dropping hints that got him to brag again, this time in writing. Every screenshot was saved. She even slipped a ridiculous rumor into the mix, that he had once cried over losing a video game, just to see if it would circle back to him. It did, and she laughed until her ribs hurt. When the night came, she invited him to a birthday dinner at a small bar, full of people they both knew. She waited until the music dipped, stood up with her phone in one hand and a microphone in the other, and started her speech. It was half comedy set, half courtroom testimony. Each point came with receipts on the big screen behind her, his texts, his selfies, his lies. The room roared with laughter and gasps. By the time she ended with, "And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the man who calls himself a king," the place was in chaos. Clips hit Twitter before dessert arrived. Memes followed. Bola went quiet. Adana didn't just win, she made history in their friend circle.